as we speak, the Jazz are up 2-1 on the Clippers. It's most likely going to be 2-2 after tonight, unless the Jazz have a huge comeback because they're down by 20 plus right now. James has already kind of mentioned his thoughts on this series, but feel free to chime in with other things. Trade-in, Tyler, what are your thoughts? Assuming this series goes 2-2, we go in 7. How are we feeling about these two teams?
Yeah, I think the Jazz, they everything runs through Mitchell, who's as offensively he's been scoring great. As James mentioned, the defense is not where it needs to be. Game 3, the Jazz as a team just forgot how to play defense. This game so far, it's kind of looking the same. They've already given up 60 points. They've still got a minute or so, or about 2 minutes left in the second period. And they're not scoring. And a lot of it's just lack of depth, and it just seems like it's the Donovan Mitchell show and that's it. And if it's going to go that way, it's not going to end well for the Jazz. So they got to figure out how to play a much better team game. Because the Clippers, as inconsistent as they've been, I think they can still come together when they need to and play a team game. The Jazz right now just kind of don't look like a team that can do that.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, let's look at the personnel that the Jazz have, and with Mitchell's injury, the points per game drops tremendously from Mitchell, right below Mitchell, right? And then if you look at the other side, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard playing amazing. Those guys are basically a point, at 30 plus points each, easy. And can we talk about Reggie Jackson? He's playing really, really well. At 18 points a game, he's shooting at a 63% from 3. That's insane. In this series, he's playing very, very well, and I think that's a huge part of the reason that I think the Clippers are actually going to come back. I don't think it's ever happened in NBA history where a team's come back from 2-0 twice, or at least more than once in NBA playoffs, and I think that this will be the first time. I look at another team who has historically struggled in first few games, and that's the Golden Knights, and they're here. So. They lost both their first games in the first 2 series, and the Clippers are losing the first 2 games in their first 2 series, which is always tough. But I'm not worried. I think the Clippers, for some reason though, they need to figure it out, because I don't think they're going to have another chance at coming back from 2-0 when you have a Suns team that is playing very, very good basketball.
James, anything else on these two teams?
I just kind of want to expand a little bit more on Tyronn Lue's coaching skill. Tyronn Lue made a switch. He took out the center for game number 3 and put in Reggie Jackson instead. They went small. Small ball against this Jazz team is what's going to win you that game. Rudy Gobert is Defensive Player of the Year. When you don't have a center that Rudy Gobert can guard against, you kind of negate that Defensive Player of the Year vibes, if you don't drive in the lane all that often, use more of that mid-range and three-point shot, Rudy Gobert is a good defender in the paint, and he's an okay defender on the perimeter. If you can kind of get him on the move using a smaller guy, you're kind of negating that defensive prowess that Rudy Gobert has. That being said, the defense for the Utah Jazz is suspect. Donovan Mitchell, when not healthy, cannot play defense. And it's becoming apparent more and more as the series goes on. Paul George and Kawhi Leonard are doing whatever they want. I think they each had 30-plus points apiece last game. And tonight, halfway through the game, they have maybe 15 to 20 points each. They're kind of doing what they want to do. If Donovan Mitchell and the Utah Jazz can't figure out how to play defense, the series is the Clippers. There's no doubt about it.
I think we talked about in hockey, the Clippers are a more talented team. I don't think they're a more cohesive group compared to this Utah Jazz team. The Jazz have just forgotten how to play defense. I don't know if they only want to play defense when they're in Utah and now they're in Los Angeles and they've decided we don't want to play defense. I don't know if they've been clubbing the last 3 nights and are fucking hungover. I don't know. If Donovan Mitchell is not healthy, the Utah Jazz cannot win this series. If he is healthy, we saw him carry them in the first two wins. I think this could go 7. I don't want the Clippers to win, even though I picked them to make the finals. I think they will win. I have no idea about the 2-0 doing it twice thing. It sounds right. Sounds smart. No idea trading. But yeah, selfishly, I hope the Clippers lose so we can have Eric back sometime. But at the same time, I also want the Clippers to lose because I'm a Lakers fan. So this will be a fun one. I think it goes 7. It kind of feels like one where, it's going to be every team wins their first 3 home games. And then, game 7, anything can happen. That's the right math, James. Don't look like that.